The CMA CGM box ship hit the beacon due to lack of crew understanding and procedures. This is from the Maritime Exclusive, and it was published on the 12th of February 2025. Lack of proficiency in the steering gear operation and change of control modes due to ambiguous procedures caused the container ship to strike a navigation beacon while departing the Port of Melbourne in May of 2023. The Australian Transportation Safety Bureau, or ATSB, released this report saying it found incomplete understanding of how the steering gear operated among the ship's engineers and ambiguous language in the company's fleet-wide procedures. Yeah, if the engineers don't know how to operate the ship, that's a really bad sign, that's for sure. The box ship CMA CGM Pustani 6300 TEU was transiting the Yarra River in Melbourne, Australia on the 25th of May 2023 when it hit a navigational beacon. The initial investigation showed erratic behavior by the ship, leading the ATSB to investigate why the steering gear was not performing correctly. The 2004 built ship, registered in Malta, went off its intended track towards the edge of the channel, causing it to strike the beacon. The pilot aboard and the crew reported the rudder was responding erratically to helm orders. Investigators pierced together the cause of the erratic steering, determining that it was due to a hydraulic bypass valve being left open by the crew after a port state control inspection the day before the incident. This resulted in the steering control system hydraulics being incorrectly configured for normal operation. It was established that with the hydraulic bypass valve open, the steering operated significantly while the minimum load on the rudder to bypass pre-departure visual inspection. However, when the hydrodynamic loads on the rudder increased, with increasing ship speed and rudder movements, the open bypass valve allowed leakage of hydraulic oil and system pressure around the pump, leading to erratic response of the rudder. ATSB determined that several officers on board were not proficient with steering gear operation and change of control modes as was required by regulations. The situation was complicated by the fact that the steering terminology used on board and within the company fleet was not clearly and explicitly defined. For a giant shipping company liner, the official fleet terminology was steering gear failure and did not recognize common industry terms such as emergency and local steering. The ship's responsible officer had an incomplete understanding of how the steering gear operated and therefore incorrectly configured the steering system hydraulics. The ATSB final report on the incident showed that in the early hours of the 25th of May, the ship sailed from Swanson Dock in Melbourne after routine safety checks under the conduct of a pilot and initially with 2 tugs in attendance. During the turn to leave Swanson Dock, the master and chief mate noticed that the rudder response seemed sluggish. As if only one steering pump was running, both pumps were operating. Neither raised their observation with each other or the pilot, and there were no alarms to indicate a pump had stopped or other abnormal conditions. At 4:36 a.m. the ship was moving along the canal after both tugs had been dismissed, and a few minutes later passed under the Westgate Bridge at a speed of 6.6 knots when the helmsman reported that the rudder was not responding to the wheel. With its speed increasing, the ship moved further off course and tracked towards the western edge of the channel, striking Navigation Buoy 32. At the time, the ship's speed was 7.7 knots. The 2 tugs were nearby and returned and helped control the ship's erratic movement. The ship was then moved to Webb Dock for inspection. The ship sustained minor paint damage, but the beacon was significantly damaged. CMA CGM has taken measures to address the ambiguity by revising the steering guidance across its fleet. The fleet-wide steering gear failure procedure has been amended and titled to become Emergency Steering Procedure. That's a big ship to be totally out of control, doing over 7 knots down a river. That's a little bit crazy, that's for sure. They were very, very lucky here They just hit a marker buoy, not a big deal. Could have been a lot worse, could have hit that bridge, could have hit 1,000 different things, could have ran that thing high and dry. But they didn't, they just hit the marker buoy. It could have gone much differently, that's for sure. They were very lucky here. And when the crew don't know how to operate something as important as the steering on a ship that big, that's a little scary. That's a lot of lack of training, that's for sure. Alright guys, there it is. As always, thanks for watching. If you're new here and you like these kind of videos, don't forget to subscribe before you leave, and we'll see you on the next one.